I'm Eileen Jones. I'm a one-hour drama writer. Even when I was in high school and in college writing papers, I remember being at my dad's office one day and somebody asked me what I was majoring in and I said English. And they were like, oh God, that sounds terrible. And I said, no, I love writing essays. Like I love the puzzle of, okay, I've got to write an essay in 4 pages and I have to say these things and how can I do it as stylishly as possible? Like that puzzle thing totally did it for me, which is super dorky. And I started writing for a PR company and was at the same time doing like creative writing workshops, just trying to figure out like, what do I want to write? How can I write? Like I didn't have any sense of how that could be a career other than if I was doing it on the side of some other career. And so I tried writing in PR and I didn't love it. It just felt a little fluffy. So I thought maybe I could do speech writing. I could be really good at that. That sounds cool. So I went and started working in politics and found myself somehow assisting Joe Biden and kind of quickly realized then too, though, that that's probably not going to be for me. I think I just knew that there was, without sounding really cheesy, I just knew that there was something that I had to say. And I just sort of came around to this realization that saying it in sort of other people's words isn't going to be enough for me. It sounds so naive to say it now. I had enough money to live in LA for 6 weeks and I had a sublet and I thought either I can get a job or I can't, but I will have tried. So maybe I go out to LA and I fail after 6 weeks and I'll tuck my tail between my legs and I'll go back to Texas. I've done it before, whatever. And I just emailed everybody that I knew. And a guy who had been older than me in high school, who was like a childhood dear friend's older brother's friend, emailed me and was like, I may have something for you. Do you like Kathryn Bigelow? And I was like, are you joking? Yes, I love Kathryn Bigelow. It was like a few months after she'd won the Oscar for The Hurt Locker. I went in and interviewed on Wednesday and I started working for her on Thursday, and that was like my first week in LA. And I feel like when I tell that story, people are like, you are such an asshole. And I'm like, I know. But yeah, within a week I was like at CAA meeting her agent and like talking, and you know, she was on set scouting, and it just was like thrown in the deep end and a very steep learning curve. The benefit of the job is that I made a lot of friends and I networked a lot and I had good connections. The downside of the job is that when I finished the job, I had no work of my own to send to those people to sort of make the most of those connections. So my manager is Chris Cook and I adore him. He's so wonderful, so wonderful. And I guess the way it came to be was I was in a position where I was looking, I had some material that I was sort of ready to get out there in a bigger way. And he had been on a friend's team at Madhouse and had left to go out on his own. And she had commented to me how sad she was that he was leaving. So it was kind of that perfect situation of he might need clients and a person that I really respect and really love had loved him. So it kind of all merged in a good way. But sort of passed my work along and put in a good word, and we ended up having coffee and just thought like he is like just the loveliest. He is really fun. We had a very good, very friendly, casual rapport from the beginning. That was really important to me because I didn't want to feel like, for lack of a better way to say it, I didn't want to feel like I had to be on my best behavior all the time. That I wanted my manager to be somebody I could go to and say, honestly, this was not the best meeting, or this was a really great meeting, or I'm stuck on this thing with my story. Would you talk about it with me? Like for me, I think creative development and strategy were like the two biggest, I guess, elements that I wanted to sort of be working on, and he just brings that in spades. So I don't know why TV like was not on my radar. It just wasn't, maybe because I had worked for Bigelow and I was so in this like feature world, you know, TV writing wasn't really anything that we talked about in grad school for whatever reason. And I think I hadn't thought about it. Like I didn't know how to sort of get there, but I did always find myself kind of having a third act problem in features. And I think I've kind of solved it now because I make sure I know the end before I start the rest, which is great. But I think it was your suggestion because I had brought in this idea and I was like, there's something cool here and I don't know what it is and I don't know how it ends. And you were like, I think it's maybe a pilot. Why don't you try it? Because then you don't have to wrap up everything at the very end. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. So between me moving to LA and getting into Warner Brothers was 6 years almost to the month. The interview for Warner Brothers was just a personal chat. It was like, I think they were wondering like, are you sane? Do we like you? Do you feel like somebody who would get along with all of these people? It was not at all about like, let's talk about the pilots or let's talk about your favorite Warner Brothers television shows. Like that wasn't even, I mean, it also is so fast. You know, it's like literally 20 minutes. And it's just personal story and tell us about yourself, and the conversation goes from there, and then it wraps up and you're like, oh, I'm done. Okay, bye, thank you. I mean, it's one of those things that goes by so quickly. When you leave, you're like, what did I even just talk about? I don't even know anymore. I had just signed with my new manager in May, I guess, and I had sort of told him like, I'm doing this and I'm finishing up, and he was like, cool, finish it. We'll dive into new work. And I was so consumed with cracking, in this case, a new feature with him. It was really far from my mind. I kind of knew that it was going to be coming out, and I just sort of hadn't thought about it. It was just so exciting because I felt like, and this is not unique to me, but I had gone for a really, really, really long time without a win, you know, and I think that you just have to be patient, trusting that that's going to come at some point. I'm like sitting on the floor at our coffee table, eating, and the phone rang and it said 818 Burbank, and I was like, oh my God. And then it stopped ringing, and I thought, oh shit, they made a mistake. Like, they didn't mean to call me at all. And so then I like called them back, and my husband is like standing there staring at me, and it was very exciting. Although it might sound really weird, I'm really grateful that I didn't like finish working for Catherine and like sell a big script, because I wouldn't have been prepared. I wasn't good enough. You know, I mean, as hard as it was at times to just feel like all of these other people are having success and all of these other people are like selling things and getting their stuff made, and it's kind of hard to see that. Like, I'm happy for them, but also, what about me? Like, it's hard, you know? I'm also really grateful for it because I got better every single time. And when it finally did happen and I got into the workshop, I was incredibly confident that I would be able to do the work. And like, I knew I could do it. I was obviously fully open to learning more. There's always more to learn, but I felt like I had a really strong foundation. I knew my process really well, and that I think is invaluable.